Welcome back to the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein. Obviously, we have a guest on today, but first off, I just want to reach out and say thank you to the people that listen to the podcast week in and week out. I know last week I missed one, but we uploaded one with Deadly Dill, episode 88. It was an awesome little segue into the creative space rather than developing creative or, being a designer. He owns his own social media marketing agency and, being a creative entrepreneur and everything. So a different side of the creative realm in episode 88. So make sure if you missed that one, listen to that one after this one. Listen to that after episode 89 today with Eli. Eli, thank you for coming on today. Very short notice. Planning worked out awesome. So I really appreciate that. Really, really.
Yeah, man, of course. Thanks for having me along. I was excited to get your DM for sure. So.
Yeah, I've been following you on socials for a while now, and you produce great stuff. You really do. I'm amazed every time you end up posting something, and it's just fantastic to see on the timeline, man. So kudos to you for doing awesome work. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to this that know who you are would say the same thing. So kudos to you, man. Yeah, no problem. So if you don't mind, go into introducing yourself for the people that don't know who you are, and then we will get into everything that we have on the docket today. Sound good?
Yeah, man. That sounds great.
Awesome.
Like you said, I'm Eli. I'm sure you and your listeners have seen my Vikings work on social. I'm a big Vikings fan, obviously. If you scroll through my Instagram profile, you'll figure that out really quick.
Mm-hmm.
But originally, I haven't always been a designer. My life has taken a bunch of weird twists and turns. I grew up in the Black Hills of South Dakota, over on the west side, like 45 minutes from Mount Rushmore, if you're familiar with that area. I grew up in Deadwood. There's a really famous HBO series out about Deadwood. Just a mini Wild West Las Vegas, if I can sum it up in as few words as possible.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like a little town of 1,500 people sitting in a valley just lined with like casino resorts and things like that. But in the wintertime, it transforms into this like winter sports haven. It's a really cool place, and it was a really cool place to grow up in.
Cool.
But I always grew up a big sports fan, but I also had a really big passion for music. And ended up actually going to college for vocal music. So I'm a classically trained vocalist, which is, I don't know, not very useful in a regular everyday, environment. But it wasn't until after college in like late 2016, because I spent some time in Minneapolis. I went to college in South Dakota, moved to Minneapolis for a brief stint, did some performing and stuff out there. But got so burnt out of that lifestyle. I tried to fly to Chicago, fly out to New York as much as I could, while also auditioning in the cities, almost every day, while also trying to maintain a full-time job. I was alone out there. I didn't really have a lot of friends. That lifestyle burned me out so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I kind of reached a turning point. Early on in my life, it was like, do I want to keep going down this path, or do I want to, try something new?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until, I was out there for about a year, and I moved back home to the Black Hills and took over my old high school theater department. But they basically labeled it as a coaching position or an extra duties contract type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I've got to find full-time work. Obviously this is fulfilling me. This is great. I get to lead a team and, coach these kids up and still express my love for performance and stuff like that, but just in a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when marketing and design kind of came into the picture. In Deadwood, like I said, it's just a tiny town lined with casino resorts, and I joined one of the teams in more of a creative marketing role, and everything kind of kick-started from there. So it's been, I'm sure we'll get into this more, but it's been a real mixed bag, as far as where I started as opposed to where I am now currently. So
yeah, it's very interesting. Did you just like pick up design and content creation like as a hobby to learn, and then you're like, hey, this is really cool?
Kinda, yeah. I always liked photography. I always liked I always liked the creative side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose as a musician, you're kind of a creative anyways, and so you always have that itch
Right.
that you want to scratch. And I was always into photography and things like that. And in college, I was an RA, and so you work in Canva. I know, the cursed Canva, to make some flyers for different events and things like that happening around campus. But it wasn't until I got into that first actual gig that I adopted the Adobe suite and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was kind of just by chance that the two aligned or whatever. So
So what do you do now for full-time work? I know you're a freelancer and stuff like that,
yeah,
right?
so I try to take on as much freelance work as I can. But my full time, I'm a creative developer for an agency up here in North Dakota called Agency Mabu. Basically, I guess basically it's an agency that specializes in nonprofit and indigenous clientele work.
Oh, cool.
So I basically assist from going on video and photo shoots to designing full scale logos, all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of try to have my hands in as many pots as possible over there, and just to make myself more valuable and to just really assist wherever I can. So
Right.
it's really been, yeah, it's very different from, because Mabu isn't a sports agency by any means. So it allows a lot of variety in my life, because when I go home and focus on the sports side, it really kind of, I don't know, it keeps me balanced,
right.
I suppose.
Yeah, the burnout, the sports burnout, and like the cliche sports layouts that, oh damn, I'm guilty of all the time too. So yeah, the burnout is probably non-existent when it comes to designing within sports content. So yeah, I can only imagine
it depends on the client that you're working with, I suppose. Sometimes and sometimes those only end up being a one-timer or whatever. But yeah, you try to. It's nice because I do have a full-time that does support me and my family, and so I get to sometimes be a little picky when it comes to freelance clients and stuff like that. Because I have such a passion for the Vikings, and I'm such a big fan of the team, and that team is honestly what kind of got me into sports design, and so I try to dedicate time every week to putting those edits out as well. I feel like that's a priority for me. I can't treat it as an extra job, even though I'm not gaining anything from it at all. It's something that I feel like I need to do. It fulfills me in a way. So,
So did that fandom start when you lived in Minneapolis, or since you're from South Dakota, there's not really any,
Right. It's either the Broncos or the Vikings. I actually grew up a big Cowboys fan because my stepdad at the time was a big Cowboys fan. Cowboys and Bears. It was weird. Cowboys, Bears, Yankees. That was the thing. And so I remember having like a little Cowboys mini helmet and stuff like that. But then it was kind of like how I started liking the Twins. It's those teams are on TV more, and you start to see the Vikings playing on Fox, and
right.
Obviously you had Culpepper and Moss and that duo, and it was like I really like this team. This is great. And that's kind of when I fell in love with the team and, started down my road of eternal heartbreak, it seems like. So but
last year was good. Last year was a good season. You guys had a great season last year.
Man, this new regime, I sound like a broken record because I try to tell anyone that I ever come into contact with, like, Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah are the truth. They're fantastic. They've completely changed the culture of the organization, and I'm so pumped about them. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, the NFC North is going to be an interesting division this year. I feel like you have, I think the Vikings talent-wise are the top team, and the Lions are very close second. You two are very equal talent-wise, I would say. And then the Packers and Bears, I think, are very equal talent-wise. And then all the Packers and Bears have to do is just steal one. You just have to split with you guys throughout the season, So it's like NFC North can either go,
Yeah. I want to say though, thank you for putting the Vikings in the top tier of the NFC North, because I'm so tired of this Detroit Lions hype. Like, I get it, finally they're good after decades and decades, but at the end of the day, it feels like they're just going to be the same old Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if people want to roast me and come back to this and roast me on Twitter or whatever, down the road, if the Lions do end up pulling a division win out of their ass, like, sure, but
It'd be cool.
It would be cool. It would be great for the city of Detroit. I love, from a creative aspect, I love what their team does. You know, the color scheme is damn near perfect, and I really am a fan of the work that they're doing. And Dan Campbell is one of the most likable head coaches in the league, so you know, it'd be really cool to see them do that. But I'm going to be a little pissy if, you know, they take it away from the Vikings, obviously.
Right. Yeah,
so.
It was heartbreak last year. My wife and I went to the last game of the season when we played them at home.
Oh my God.
We had to win to get into the playoffs, and they came into Lambeau Field and, you know, served it to us, and it was not the best scenario.
That was, yeah, I'm an old man, and so I was in bed watching that game. But that was interesting. And that, like, that tunnel walk shot of Rodgers and Cobb, you know, walking together, that was wild.
They're just like, hey, you want to go play for the Jets next season? That's exactly what they were saying.
Let's build a super team out east and go, you know, win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, honestly.
That's what we're gonna go do. So
what a bunch of scumbags, man. I tell you.
Yeah, I suppose you're probably not very pumped about that.
I mean, yeah, sure. You guys can have Aaron Rodgers. He's got a very, at least the way he held himself in Green Bay was not favorable sometimes from a fan's perspective, you know? Like, yeah, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. You can't doubt the man's talent. Like, he'll be a Packers Hall of Famer. He will be an NFL Hall of Famer no matter what. He will be first ballot once he retires.
Right.
But, like, it's to only get one trophy out of his tenure here, especially with, like even with Brett Favre getting one trophy out of his tenure, you know?
Oh, for sure.
It's
wild.
It's horrible.
Wild.
It's horrible.
So wild. But at least you have a couple of, you know, you have some rings, you know, recent rings, you know. I guess that's relative.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't been to the Super Bowl since what, 77? So okay. Fine. You know, one of these times though, I feel like there's a change in the tide in Minnesota. But you know, I digress.
Yeah, it's
for hours, but
yeah, the NFL season is going to be an interesting one for a Midwesterner's perspective, for sure. It's going to be, I think it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be competitive. It'll be great to see the Lions win the NFC North. I think that'd be a really cool storyline, but do I want that to happen? No. Do I want the Vikings to win the NFC North? No.
I can't imagine why.
I mentioned before we hopped on, but yeah, Brad LaFeld, you should connect with him and talk shit to him about how the Bears suck. That would be nice.
He just launched a really cool like fan page on Twitter, didn't he?
Yeah, Bears Redux or something like that.
Where he's doing his own design work and stuff. It looks really cool.
Yeah, he's doing like a whole
Art Deco style and everything to it. Yeah. It's really sweet.
It's like a whole I talked to him about it. I said like it's a he wants like a, what's it called? Case study. He wants a case study for his portfolio, like fully worked out and everything. So that's why he's doing it. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. But I think he should add like an audio like element to it. Like he should do, you know, some like post week, you know, he should do like a audio element like on a Monday after everything, or like on a Tuesday after everything, and then on like a Friday or a Saturday. You know, I think that'd be really cool.
Absolutely.
Because then, you know, it shows maybe a little bit more versatility and content creation. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, the Bears Redux. If you guys are Bears fans listening right now, just because you want to hear about all that great stuff they have going on in Chicago, I think I'm gonna link. Actually, no, I won't link it. Just look it up on Twitter. Look up Bears Redux on Twitter, or you guys know, people listen consistently know who Brad is. Go to his Twitter. You'll see that. I'm not gonna link it down below. There's no reason for me. That's and it's Bears.
Screw you, Brad.
Yeah. Yeah. Screw you. Anyways, back into the design space. Getting into sports and everything. Obviously, I mean, you like the Vikings, but was that?
Hold on, man. I'm really sorry. I'm washing a comforter right now, and it's losing its mind on the spin cycle. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. No worries. Just a little delay here.
God, I'm sorry about that. It must have gotten like lopsided or something on there. And
No,
so
it's
it was
fine.
making this like vroom, vroom, vroom. I don't know if you could hear that. I think
Yeah,
it happened once while we were talking about the North, and then it just started happening again. I was like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. We gotta fix this.
yeah. I didn't hear it, so your
Oh,
Mac is doing a great job filtering out
that's
background noise.
fantastic. Well, I'm really sorry that we had to cut that. So
No, that's fine. So yeah, back to where we were. Getting into sports stuff. Obviously, you like the Vikings, but was that like your main drive into starting to develop sports graphics and getting into that space? Like, how did you get into like freelancing within the space and everything like that?
yeah, so I think back to the casino marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
First kind of prefacing, that really kind of launched me into the Adobe suite, and then in casino marketing, it's actually really kind of fun because there's a lot of variety. You're trying to find ways to bring players into the door to increase play. You're coming up with new promotion ideas. And at that time, sports betting wasn't legal in South Dakota, but we were still, there are still things that you try to, build hype around, like Super Bowl and March Madness, things like that. And so it started to kind of lend itself to add more of a sports aspect to some of these promotions and things that we were designing. And I think it was the 2021 playoffs, 2019 playoffs, something like, I don't know. I can't remember what year it was.
Mm-hmm.
But we started to kind of do more, playoff themed promotions and things like that. And so I started to, incorporate more NFL players and things into the artwork and that kind of stuff. And that was when I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, this is actually this is really enjoyable for me because I'm working with players that I know. I'm working with players that I enjoy. Like, and this is kind of fun work. And so it was when COVID shut us down in March of 2020. I tried to do a 365 days of design thing where I was going to do a sports graphic every day for an entire year. And I got to like day 150 and I was like, oh my God, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Like, this is the worst idea I've ever had. And so I quit because it started to become such a daunting task. I'm like, oh my God, like I have to make something literally every day. And it got to a point where there was no creativity. It's like, okay, let's just throw some shit together in Photoshop and call it good. I met my goal for today.
Right.
But then in September of 2020, I was asked to join a big hospitality group as their creative manager, and then eventually worked my way into a creative and marketing manager role and oversaw the team and everything. So we had 15 properties and 25 different brands. It was a heavy role, and I felt like I was drinking out of a fire hose for a really long time. But we got the opportunity to partner with BetMGM to introduce sports betting to South Dakota. And so it was really cool to, I don't know, introduce my two passions of sports and design and really mash them together to create an entire brand around how we were going to market sports betting. Coming to South Dakota, and we were doing like the full sports book, build outs and things like that. So it was really cool. But then simultaneously alongside that, I was starting to connect with some NFL photographers and primarily Janae Johnson, who was doing some contract work at the time with the Vikings. And she was on her Instagram story. She was just looking for designers. And I just was like, you miss every shot you don't take. So I just DM'd her and I was like, hey, I love your work. I love the Vikings. I would love to, help if that's what you're needing.
Right.
And she's like, yeah. And she kind of scrolled through my Instagram really quick. And she was like, based on the work that you're putting out, I think that this could be perfect. And so basically she would, share some galleries or links with me of player arrivals and player warmups and some of her game day shots and things like that. And I would just start putting together various edits. And, it was like Christmas Day every time I'd get one of those galleries, or any time it would show up. It's like, oh my God, because it's one thing to like, and I'm sure you know this and any other designer knows this. It's one thing to scour Google or Getty, and find your images that way. But it's another thing to actually get the galleries of all these amazing high-res photos. It's like you evolve, you're like reaching your next level as a designer, it's like, oh my God, these photos are amazing. It's going to make my job so much easier. And so that just made me fall in love with it even more. And that's when, players started to notice, because I'd post something, obviously you tag the player, and then she shares it, and, she's followed by a ton of players. And so then they start reaching out and you start to get connected with them, and, one thing leads to the next, and it just kind of starts to snowball from that point. So
right.
It's wild.
So have you, who have you worked with? Like, have you done personal work for, some NFL players? Who, what's the list like?
Yeah. So I've done so Zadarius Smith was one that I got really excited about.
That's pretty cool.
That kind of turned into a little bit of a situation just because of someone that was claiming to be one of his people. It was weird. Dalvin Tomlinson was a really cool one. He's a really good guy. Alexander Madison, he's got to be my favorite. I've done some work for his brand and things like that. And then
cool.
Within the Vikings organization, one of their strength and development coaches, Derek Keys, or I guess he's the assistant director of player performance now. Derek Keys, he's had me do some stuff based on, players that he's been in, development with and things like that. So it's been cool to, kind of be more connected to the organization, I guess, in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes me want to gravitate more towards, the agency work and, actually work directly with the players, things like that. And helping build their brand and, increase their following, things like that, and really build awareness around what they're all about outside of football. So that's really what is driving me now, going forward. So
right. Yeah, that is like the overarching message, really, like for myself too, and I feel like for a lot of designers that work within sports and work directly with players, it's like yeah, it's cool to work with these players, but how can we raise their brand up a little bit, get their recognition out, and also, if you're working for, I guess I mentioned this before we started recording, but in my case, we work with NFL athletes for their foundations and their charitable organizations. So it's like, how can we position their charitable organizations to compete with other, not to compete in a way, like to beat another one, but like to get to the top of the mind for their fans, for people that are connecting with their brand. Like, hey, yeah, you may know who Aaron Jones is, but do you know what their family foundation is that him and his brother have? ANA All the Way Foundation, like the majority of the fan base of Aaron Jones may not know who that is, or may not know what that is and what they stand for. So it's like, the more you market that, the more you succeed at that, the more the fans can relate to who the player is as a human rather than just a football player, and that's the ultimate end goal.
Man, I couldn't agree more with that. And I'm very happy to see that a lot of teams are starting to offer more of a behind the scenes look to, see that these guys at the end of the day are husbands, they're brothers, their sons, they're human beings, and I feel like that veil doesn't always get pierced in the way that it should be. So I love that. I love the idea of helping these guys really increase their awareness and really use their platform for good and to just further everything. So I'm all on board with all of it, and I love that so many teams are really starting to adopt that just to gauge, just to give the casual fan a more intimate experience as to, who these guys are. So.
And even like these series, like Hard Knocks, like you're getting an inside look into, especially the one with the Jets now, with the big controversy over Aaron Rodgers last offseason, where's he going to go? That was on SportsCenter and First Take or whatever the hell you watch every day. Every single day there was a segment about it. And then, and no matter if it was the same content they preached about the day before, people were watching. So it's like having the Jets be the Hard Knocks, I don't know how they determine that, whether it's seasons in advance, who knows, but it happened to land on, one of the more controversial situations of the NFL, and, where arguably the most talented quarterback in the league is going to go after leaving an organization that he was with for 15 years, like that's
well, this was really interesting because no one wanted to do Hard Knocks. No one wanted to do it. I think that's what Pat McAfee and everyone on that
really?
show was saying. Yeah, no one wanted to do Hard Knocks. And so HBO finally approached the Jets and was, kind of like in a please, like,
right.
come on. And so I think, with those, I think there are a lot of, regulations and walls that are put up by the organization, like, hey, you only have access to this part of this meeting or this part of this practice and stuff, and you only get, this amount of time with player A, out here. But yeah, I do agree with you. It is cool, and it's fun that they ended up, the Jets ended up hopping on board amidst one of their more interesting off seasons, of late. Obviously, the Brett Favre deal a decade ago, but it's just funny how time seems to be a flat circle where you had Brett Favre leave the Packers, go to the Jets, go to the Vikings. Now Aaron Rodgers leave the Packers, go to the Jets. Vikings
yeah. Maybe go to the Vikings.
I'm gonna get unfollowed by every Vikings fan in the world right now. I'm sure some people would be on board. I mean, hell, part of me would be on board, even though I do enjoy Kirk Cousins very much, especially after watching the quarterback documentary, just showing who he is as a human being. I think a lot of us fans already kind of knew that he was, that kind of guy, but now I think, the nation is finally waking up to the fact that Kirk Cousins he's just a cool guy.
Stand up
he just kind of embraces who he is, and I love that. So.
So one thing I had slated for today, and it was suggested after, maybe not after last episode, but after the episode prior. So I think after episode 87, someone came into my DMs. I'm not going to say who, but you know who you are. And they suggested talking about connections and networking. You mentioned a connection of yours. I forgot her name, the photographer. Janae Johnson. You mentioned that a little bit, and now how that connection built into, you just reaching out, and then it built into you getting client work from players, and you working with players, and you working directly with her with the with the content that she's capturing and stuff like that, and that just came from a simple DM, From your perspective, you don't just have to talk sports, but from your career perspective, how important to have connections and networking been for not only like just for you, but also for like your career progression and maybe for your career in the future?
Man, what I've found is that it is literally one of the most important things to have someone in the room to just vouch for you. Like it's been insane, like, because obviously design, and especially sports design, it's an incredibly competitive industry. And so just having someone in the room that brings up your name, or if your name comes across someone's desk and someone there is able to at least, tie something to your name, that's huge. And so I always try to take as many opportunities as I can to connect with people, and to be as authentic as I can be. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I've gotten this year was from Jerry Jones at the NBA, not Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys owner, but one of their design managers over there, Jerry. He's fantastic, and he really told me, like, let people know who Eli the human being is as well. Obviously, and this, as designers, we just post our work, and we're not very good about, well, I guess I shouldn't speak for anyone else, but I'm not very good about, sharing anything about my personal life. And it's not that I'm necessarily private about my personal life. It's just I get caught up in sharing my work. But what Jerry said, really, really hit me. It's like people need to know who you are as well, because sure, it's one thing to put out great work, but you also have to be a good person to work with, and you have to, bring that positivity with you, because there's 1.5 million good designers, but you also have to be a good person and exude that, authenticity in any of your meetings with any of these people. And so that's a big goal of mine. And that's something that I think, anyone could really do to kind of increase their connections and things like that. If that makes sense. I kind of rambled there for a little bit, but
that makes sense for sure.
Yeah. I think just being genuine, respond to your comments, because it's something that I'm bad at sometimes too. But if someone's going to take the time to give you kudos on your work, take the 15 seconds to, I love to throw up the heart hands, just like, thanks. It means a lot that you took the time to comment on a piece that I made just for fun. I think that's really cool. And I mean, the Vikings community is so active on social media, and it's been crazy to see the community that is kind of, been built around me and the work that I've been doing. It's wild. Like every week someone is like, why haven't the Vikings hired this guy? Like tagging the Vikings on Twitter. And so Zach, their social guy, is watching or listening to this. Like, I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to ask people to pressure the Vikings into hiring me or anything. It's, but it is cool. It is cool that, people do see my work and see the effort that I'm putting into this stuff. And they think that maybe I have potential to get to that point one day, but I'm not in any rush right now. But, as far as connections and things like that go, just be authentic and just be open to new ideas and, always approach things with kind of an amateur mindset. Like, I don't know everything, or better yet, I don't know anything. I always joke at work, I'm just the idiot that sits in the back and likes Photoshop. It's not that I think that I'm a dumbass, but I just, I don't really hold a lot of, I don't hold this big aura around, what I do. It's at the end of the day, it's a job, and it's a livelihood, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. So
for sure. Yeah. I wouldn't say like it was related so much for my first job, but for the job that I have now, it was, I like to, obviously, like my capabilities and everything obviously made me a choice to be considered for the job. But the person that came to me and like offered me that job was creative director I have now, Tony Turnquist. I had him, I connected with him on Twitter for a while. I had him on the podcast, and, then our friendship kind of came from there. And then he reached out to me and said, hey, we have an opening. I'd want to reach out to see if you're interested before we even open it up to anyone else. So I was like that connection directly got me the job that I have now, directly, having a good relationship with him online and in person through this, and then continuing that conversation. And, my intentions weren't like, hey, you're going to get me a job later. That's not my intentions. But it was like, a great friendship with someone that you meet online or someone that you connect with, that brews into that relationship, can attribute to an opportunity down the road, or something like that. With my first job, with the Timber Rattlers, it was kind of indirect whether they reached out to him or not. But when I interned in college, the GM from where I interned with the Northwoods League team in Wisconsin here, he had mutual connections at the organization that I was applying for. And he was from Wisconsin. He worked with a couple people there. And then he moved on to be a GM for a team within the same league. And they all know one another. They all, or a VP, they all know one another. They all connect. They all bounce ideas off of each other. And, he was a reference on my resume. So being able to have that, I don't know if they reached out to him or not for sure, but he was there. They may have recognized the name and been like, oh, this guy knows, who he is. And, there's a vouch there, maybe indirectly if they didn't reach out to him, but possibly directly if they did, and, like-minded and, familiar and everything like that. So yeah, I can't speak enough to this topic. Like, and the point that you brought up too, it's like, yeah, when you post something and someone takes the time out of their day, just being a nice person and being genuine about, that connection and that interaction,
and it also, I'll even go a step further. Like if people, if a younger designer or someone who's just getting started, because I say younger, but also, there are people like me that didn't get started until they were, in their mid-20s, I suppose, because I'm 30 now. If someone who is just getting started in this and they reach out and they're, looking for some simple tips and things like that, it's not like you have to give them the Bible for design, but, right. offer them a word or two on, this is kind of what I did. These are some words that really helped me, or these are some things that really helped me get started. Like, always be willing to lend that helping hand, and again, I'm not the best at it always, but I really try to, skim my DMs and see if anyone is looking for any sort of advice in that way. And I'll always try to offer some sort of, help or anything. Because at the end of the day, like, better design all around makes for, a better community and things like that, So.
Yeah, the main thing that I preach over and over and over again, and I'm pretty sure I've said this on this podcast, is the aspect of like getting mentors and having that connection with someone that, whether you look up to them or in whatever facet you look up to them, whether they're, what my criteria is like, I want to learn from people that are at a place where I see myself going, where I want to end up, so reaching out to some of those people I look up because, that's where I see them. I see them on that pedestal, and, reaching out to them and learning from them and creating that relationship and everything like that, like that'll go miles. That went miles for my career. Like that went miles for my ability. So like talking from experience, I can say like getting someone like that to where that relationship isn't like it's a friendship, but it's not like you're giving them your work and all they're saying is good things. Like that has to be the open relationship where they can say bad things and you're like open to receiving that. But when I say bad things, like obviously constructive criticism, but good and bad for the sake of the, of the dialogue. But yeah, that's a relationship that I think is essential for growth within our domain and within our career. It's like developing that relationship and connection for a mentor is, oh my gosh, it's priceless for how much it can do for like your abilities and everything like that. And also being able to get on like a friendship level with, this may sound selfish, but like getting on a friendship level with someone that's, got reputation and has legs in the industry, and, who knows where they have been, so it's like, you never know where that connection is going to possibly land you, or like you could mention it in an interview and, who knows if they're going to know them, so it's like,
Right. Well, it's not like, and that's where the authenticity comes in, you're not, developing, you've already mentioned this, you're not developing these relationships with the expectation that they're going to get you a job.
Right.
It's just, you click with that person and a friendship evolves from that. And whether or not it leads to an opportunity, that doesn't matter. I think the formula for growth as a designer is really, really simple, and I don't know if this is, relevant, it's kind of an offshoot to what we were kind of talking about, but it just popped into my brain. It's super simple, really, when you get down to it. Post often, post consistently, and connect with your people, and be authentic. So post quality work on a consistent basis. And if people end up enjoying it, say thank you, and do that for, I sound like Gary Vee right now. I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I am, but I just feel like I regurgitate 90% of the shit that he spews out there. But it's true, try that for 18 to 24 months and watch the growth, from there. Like, I don't have a big following by any means, but a year and a half ago, I was at like 750 followers, 750, 800. Now I'm over 5,000. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things, but like, you just keep going. You keep connecting with people. I love how Instagram introduced the collaboration option for posts and things like that. So yeah, I love this, growth kind of conversation about how you can evolve and how you can grow in the industry. And so like you said, we can talk for hours. So.
Right. So the problem that may be the thing, I won't say a problem, the thing that may be an issue for some, like you said, maybe not younger, but like, inexperienced designers looking to get into the industry, gaining that network. Obviously directly you can get it through having jobs and stuff like that. But if you're not, if you don't have any experience gaining that network, what would be like your first way of, diving into getting connections if you have no leg on it and everything?
Start posting your work on LinkedIn immediately. I think it's been so weird how LinkedIn is one of like the top places that I've seen the most growth over the past even 6 months. And that's where because I think people go to LinkedIn to connect in general. And so, finding finding people that might interact with your work and inviting to connect with them and things like that, even if it's just electronically. Because sometimes, depending on a person's mood, like getting that generic, like, hey, I love your work and would love to connect, that can sometimes get a little monotonous. But, if someone's taking the time, like I said, it always goes back to if someone's taking the time to appreciate your work, appreciate them back. And so if you throw up something on LinkedIn, that's where a lot of people are in the industry that have, those management and those types of level jobs. Start posting on there and start connecting with people on there. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone on Twitter have gotten an email like, hey, I saw your work on LinkedIn. It's like, of all places, like, I guess LinkedIn is now the place to be, showcasing your work. Because as designers anymore, you also have to kind of be good marketers, especially if you're trying to, make a name for yourself and make a career out of this. You've got to have those marketing chops, and you've got to be able to know where to post, when to post, get your captions right, things like that. There's a lot that goes into it. Yeah. But I think also just putting your work out there is the biggest thing. Carving out time every week to put 3 or 4 things together just to share. And that's been my mantra for years now. Just make time, post it, and just keep going. So
yeah, big thing when I was starting out is just reaching out to people, just reaching out, saying hi, like, what's up, like, and being like super organic about it, like telling them your situation and saying like, hey, I want to learn, I'm looking for advice. I'm looking, I'm very new to this type of thing, like, I know in the beginning it was very, very intimidating for me to reach out to someone like Brad or Brandon Moore or Dan Beltran, like some of those guys that now I would say, like, I could reach out to them and we just BS, whenever. Like now I would say we're Twitter friends, we're not friends, but we're Twitter friends.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
we're like decent online acquaintances where it's like it's a nice thing to, to see their faces in my DMs and have conversations with them. But then, a couple years back, I was like, these guys are amazing. Why would they even take the time to talk to me, And, you'll be pleasantly surprised with the people that you reach out to, that they'll, they want to take time out of their days to help people learn. They want to close the gap there, as much as they can, because they've went through those hardships in their career. And it was so much harder for them to get there, to where now it's like, they're trying to help people that want to get into the industry, gain that knowledge and gain that advice. And especially if, obviously you can't be looking for handouts, but,
right.
Like I said, being as organic and authentic as possible, and just, coming clean and be like, hey, I want to learn, and I look up to you. Would you be open to giving me advice, about X topic or about Y, about interviews or packaging your work, or, whatever your question may be. These people, they want to give advice. They want to share their experience. So yeah, that's how I did it. That's how I got into the space and, really got hooked, is, just blatantly reaching out to people that I think produced awesome work, and, wanting to learn from them,
and being specific and being intentional in your ask. I think some people will just, DM like, sup bro, and it's like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, hey, but if someone is like, hey, hope you're doing well. I'm just getting started in Photoshop, like you were kind of talking about, and I would love to know how you add lighting to your players, or how you add player treatment and things like that. Are there any tips and tricks? And,
right.
I'd be like, hey, thanks a lot for reaching out. I really appreciate that. But yeah, just being intentional, being specific, that kind of thing. It's huge.
It's massive. Yeah, it's massive. So with your career, I mean, obviously you may not want to say it, but some people are like eerie about talking about their future in their career. But do you see yourself like getting into the sports scene and, potentially getting a career within like a sports organization, or full-time freelance within that? Like, what are your goals, if you don't mind me asking?
Dude, yeah, no worries. If I could work full time in sports, it would be a dream. It'd be an absolute dream. Um, and I've been close a couple of times, but it just hasn't been the right opportunity,
For sure.
things like that, because at the end of the day, you still have to support your family, as and it still has to be the right opportunity. And it gets trickier now as you get older because you can't necessarily take like internship pay and things like that. You can't go from salary down to, it's a tough tightrope walk sometimes, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I'm big on goals. I'm big on climbing that next mountain and things like that. And if I looked at myself 5 years ago, like it would have been a dream to think about where I am now, just in a 5-year span. But I think let's just call it another 5-year goal. I would love to, either be fully freelance on my own, or, be in kind of a creative director role for a team. Shout out Vikings, maybe. Who knows? Just kind of that, that creative management role, with a team or an organization, things like that, because I feel like I do have a lot of, management experience in my, I'm very well-rounded, I suppose,
right.
in my approach. So yeah, that's definitely something that I want to kind of strive towards.
For sure.
And we're making progress, but you got to be patient. This stuff doesn't happen overnight, so.
For sure.
Yeah. If it happens in 2 weeks, amazing. If it happens in 5 years, amazing. I'm here for the ride. Like, my wife is going to listen to this and roll her eyes because I'm also one of the most impatient people in the world. So it's, it's an exercise in accountability to keep myself patient and to, just enjoy the journey.
Right.
Because,
for sure.
you live life once, so you might as well just enjoy what you're doing and, enjoy the ride as much as possible. So
100%, man. Well said. Very well said. Well, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. It's been really awesome being able to chop it up and talk shop a little bit. For the audience, go down below, check out all of Eli's links. I'll have his Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those good things. Website, I'll have that all down there for you. So go link up with Eli. Check out his work. He produces amazing work. You'll be very, very 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 satisfied. That's the word. Very satisfied when looking at the stuff that he produces. And yeah, man, I can't say it enough. You produce awesome work. And it's been awesome being able to sit down and talk with you over this lunch hour.
Yeah, the grind never stops.
Right.
So,
right.
No, I appreciate you, man. It was really cool to get that DM, like I said, and to, like, oh my God, someone actually wants to talk to me about my process. Like that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So, you're really doing me a favor as well by, mm-hmm. Having me on here and allowing me to, I don't know, because I'm going to share this and, some of my followers have no idea who I am. Mm-hmm. They've never heard my voice. They've probably never seen my face. So it's really cool that, you're giving me kind of a platform as well. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. But yeah, thank you for the audience for coming out to episode 89 today of the Creative Process Podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day, week, month, whenever you're listening to this. And as always, make sure you tell someone that you love them. All right, we will take it easy. We'll see you in episode 90. Episode 90 coming up next. We'll see you. Bye.